Mr. Anthony Dibesa, can you see us now? Can you see us, sir? Okay.
Yes, I can. I can see you, yes. Yes, yes.
Good morning. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the 55th Annual General Meeting of our company. Please note that I, Ufoma Ibru, have been appointed to act as chairman for the purpose of this annual general meeting. As the chairman of the board of directors, Chief Anthony Udigbe SAN, is joining virtually. Other directors, Mr. Abacha Bulama, Mr. D. Ramakatala Mokobo, Mr. T.J. David Kriegel, Mr. Norman Bathdor, Mr. Andrew G. Johnston are also joining virtually. I would like to call upon one of the members to say the opening prayer. Mr. Adesina Timothy, would you be so good as to give us the opening prayer?
Good morning, everybody. Let's close our eyes and prayer. Thank you, Father, Lord, King of Glory, for a beautiful day. We are here gathered to celebrate on our company's progress and report. Father, let's shed light on our way and let our deliberations be successful. In Jesus' name. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you all are aware, the COVID-19 pandemic has made it imperative that certain restrictions be taken by the government to contain the pandemic in Nigeria. One of such is the restriction on numbers of persons in a gathering. Today, we are holding this meeting with virtual participation by certain persons who are duly represented by their proxies at the meeting. Further, we are being watched globally as this AGM is being streamed live. By the combined provisions of Section 251 and Section 254 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2020, members can attend an AGM in person or by proxy. The Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, proactively together with other regulators, issued guidelines which would enable companies hold general meetings in the restricted environment by proxies, subject to its approval. Consequent thereon, the 55th AGM was approved by the CAC to be held by proxy, with the following as pre-selected proxies. Mr. Adesina Timothy, Mrs. Bukari Adebisi Oluwayemisi, Prince Dr. Anthony Omojola, Mr. Ufoma Ibru, Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos, and Mr. Bjorn Barland. Article 60 of the company's Articles of Association provides that 3 members of the company, present in person or by proxy, shall be a quorum. Before the main business of today, may I now call upon the registrars to read to the meeting the proxy report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, and esteemed shareholders. We hereby confirm that 159 proxies and 4 shareholders representing 1,933,262,933 units of shares have been recorded as follows. And this represents, in shares, the shareholding we have represents 86.06% of the shareholding of the company, share capital of the company. Thank you.
Thank you. I now therefore declare that a proper quorum, as required by the company's Articles of Association for this meeting, has been formed, and I declare the meeting open. In accordance with Article 63 of the company's Articles of Association, a poll may be demanded by the chairman of the meeting or at least 5 members entitled to vote at such meeting, present in person or by proxy, and representing not less than 1/10 of the total voting rights of all the members having the right to vote at the meeting, or by 1 or more members entitled to vote at such meeting, present in person or by proxy, holding shares in the company, conferring a right to vote at the meeting, being shares on which an aggregate sum has been paid up equal to not less than 1/10 of the total sum paid up on all the shares conferring that right. The pre-selected proxies would all have received an electronic voting device tagged to the number and value of proxies held, by which you can exercise your votes by poll. The voting would be electronical and collated for real-time disclosure. I will now, as acting chairman, as proxy and shareholder, make a demand that voting on all matters to be considered at this 55th AGM, save the election of statutory audit committee members, be by poll. With regard to recording and manner of speaking, I would like to request that those moving motions, those seconding motions put to the meeting, those making comments or asking questions should speak clearly into the microphone. Before speaking, kindly commence by stating your name. There will be opportunities for questions and comments. I wish to appeal to each speaker to be brief with their questions so as to give others a chance to also ask questions. The names of the directors are contained in the published accounts, which have earlier been circulated. Permit me, therefore, to introduce the directors and the company secretary by their names. Sitting on my extreme right is Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos. To my immediate right is Ms. Florence Ojewumi, the representative of Punuka Nominees Limited, the company secretary. I am Ufoma Ibru, the acting chairman for the purpose of this AGM. Also in attendance are the representatives of the external auditors, KPMG, ably represented by Dr. Goodluck Obi, and the Shareholder Audit Committee, representative in the person of Mr. Peter Suarez. Also seated are the representatives of Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions. The directors' representatives on the audit committee are Alhaji Abacha Bulama, Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos, and Mr. Kati Mokobo. I now call on the secretary to read the notice commencing the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice of Annual General Meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 55th Annual General Meeting of the Tourist Company of Nigeria will hold at the Federal Palace Hotel and Casino 6 to 8 Ahmadu Bello Way, Victoria Island, Lagos, on Tuesday, 15th September 2020 at 11 a.m. to transact the following business. Agenda. Ordinary business. 1. To lay before members for approval the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2019 and to receive the report of the directors, audit committee, and auditors thereon. 2. To retire and re-elect the directors. Special notice is hereby given to ratify the re-election of Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos as a director of the company, notwithstanding that he is over 70 years old. To authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors. 4. To elect members of the statutory audit committee. Special business. 1. To approve the remuneration of the directors. 2. That shareholders approve and grant a general mandate to the board of directors to engage in transactions with related parties, as subsequently would be required for the proper running and day-to-day operations of the company. Notes. 1. Proxy. A member of the company entitled to attend and vote at the meeting who is unable to attend the meeting and wishes to be represented at the meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend, speak, and vote in his or her stead. A proxy need not be a member of the company. A proxy form is enclosed herewith, and if it is to be valid for the purpose of the meeting, it must be completed and duly stamped by the Commissioner of Stamp Duties and deposited at the registered office of the registrars, Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions, 274 Muritala Mohammed Way, Yaba, Lagos, not less than 48 hours before the meeting, before the time of the meeting. The form may also be sent via email, proxy@gtlregistrars.com. In line with CAC guidelines for holding AGM by proxy, the cost of stamping the proxy form will be borne by the company. 2. Compliance with regulatory guidelines on COVID-19. In line with the guidelines of the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, on the conduct of annual general meetings, AGMs, by proxy, and the need to comply with government directives on health and safety measures against COVID-19 pandemic, attendance at the AGM will be by proxy only. Shareholders are required to appoint a proxy of their choice from the list of nominated proxies below. Mr. Adesina Timothy, Mrs. Bakari Adebisi Oluwayemisi, Prince Anthony Omojola, Mr. Ufoma Ibru, Dr. Alexander Thomopoulos, Mr. Bjorn Bjørland. Nominations of the Audit Committee. In accordance with Section 359, subsection 5 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, any member of the Audit Committee any member may nominate a shareholder for election as a member of the Audit Committee by giving notice in writing of such nomination to the company secretary at least 21 days before the annual general meeting. Such nominations shall be guided by the requirements of the Securities and Exchange Commission's Code of Corporate Governance for Companies in Nigeria, 2011. Please note that it is advised that the nominees should have financial understanding and experience. 4, right of shareholders to ask questions. Shareholders have a right to ask questions not only at the meeting, but also in writing prior to the meeting, and such questions must be submitted to the company secretary on or before Monday, 31st August 2020. Closure of register. The register of members and the transfer books of the company will be closed from Tuesday, 1st of September 2020 to Monday, 7th September 2020, both days, dates inclusive. By the order of the board, Florence Ojeomi, FRC 2020-002 0000002064 for Punica Nominees Limited, Company Secretary, Lagos, 20th August 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. The chairman's statement was circulated together with the published accounts. I would therefore appreciate it if it is taken as read. We will now proceed to the agenda of the day. You will each have received your copy of the 2019 accounts of the company, together with the reports of the directors. Item number 1 on the agenda is to receive the audited accounts. To lay before members for approval, the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019, and to receive the report of the directors, audit committee, and auditors thereon. I now call on the representative of the external auditors to please present the auditor's report, which was circulated to all members with the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished members of the company, good morning. The auditor's report can be found on pages 17 to 20. As the chairman had said, this was pre-circulated. I therefore take the permission of the members of the company to read certain sections of the report and take some other sections as read, if that is okay. Thank you. Independent auditor's report to the shareholders of the Tourist Company of Nigeria PLC. Reports on the audit of the financial statements. I'm reading from page 17. Opinion. We have audited the financial statements of the Tourist Company of Nigeria PLC, the company, which comprise the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2019, the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and notes comprising significant accounting policies and other explanatory information as set out on pages 21 to 63. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the company as at 1st December 2019 and of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards and in the manner required by the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act 2011. Basis of our opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under these standards are further described in the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the company in accordance with the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, ISBA Code, together with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit to the financial statements in Nigeria, and we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with these requirements and the ISBA Code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. I will ask you to take note of the paragraphs on material uncertainty relating to going concern and the emphasis of matter relating to the forensic investigation, as well as the key audit matters. I will then go to the last paragraph on page 20. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. Compliance with the requirements of Schedule 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. In our opinion, proper books of account have been kept by the company so far as appears from our examination of those books. And the company's statement of financial position and statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of account, signed by myself on behalf of KPMG. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, may I crave your indulgence to recognize the presence of Mr. Bonaventure Onwuji of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. Thank you. I now call on the shareholder member of the Audit Committee, Mr. Peter Suarez, to present the report of the committee.
Good morning, Acting Chairman, the directors, the auditors, the regulators, and my distinguished shareholders. Welcome. The Audit Committee report shall be found on page 16. And I am reading this report on behalf of Abacha, Mr. Abacha Bulama, who should have been the chairman of the Audit Committee to read today. Report of Audit Committee for the year ended 31st December 2019. Comply with Section 3596 of the Company and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20 LFN 2004. You have received the audited report for the year ended 31st December 2019. We hereby report that 1. The accounting and reporting policies of the company are in accordance with the legal requirement and agreed ethical practices. 2. That the scope and planning of the external audit for the year ended 31st December 2019 were, in our opinion, adequate. 3. The company maintained an effective system of accounting and internal control during the year. 4. The external auditor finding and recommendation on management matters were satisfactorily dealt with by the management. 5. With the exception of rental services, which have been charged for mostly due to litigation, the method adopted in determining the pricing of the related party transaction are appropriate and reasonable, and not prejudicial to the interests of the company and the majority security holders. The independent auditor confirmed management full cooperation in the course of the performance of their duties, and that they are not limited in any way by the company or its management. Signed by Mr. Bashar Bulami, Chairman. The members of the Audit Committee are represented Mr. Amusa Oseni Adekule is not here, should have been. Mr. Saliu Adebanjo. Okay, you are here. Thank you. Welcome. Mr. Saliu Adebanjo. Hi. And then we have the director representative, Mr. Mokobo is not here, Mr. Basha, representative, and Dr. Alice Tikomo. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. As copies have been circulated to you in accordance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20 Laws of the Federation 2004, and the company's Articles of Association, I hereby lay before this meeting the Director's Report, the balance sheet, together with the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019. My colleagues and I will be pleased to answer questions and listen to comments which you may have on the report and financial statements before we proceed to the next item on the agenda. In doing so, it will help to ensure that we give the right answers if you could refer to the page of the report and accounts to which your questions or comments relate. Shareholders who have questions and comments should walk to the mic and speak. Please keep your questions short and concise.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, directors here present, the regulatory authorities here present, my co-shareholders, good morning. My name is Mrs. Bisi Bakari. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be very brief because looking at our accounts, I don't see much to discuss this morning, looking at the report we are considering today. So there is no point wasting our time. Having said that, I will go straight to page 3 of the annual report and accounts, where we have the financial highlights. Mr. Chairman, looking at the financial highlights, the result we are considering this morning is not an encouraging result at all. Because if you look at this page, all the indices, they are all negatives. It's except for the revenue that increased by 2%. So my question on this is that what is the way forward for our company, Tourist Company of Nigeria, PLC, especially considering the negative impacts COVID-19 is going to have on our business on 2020 account. If we can have this type of account for 2019 when there is no COVID, I wonder how the account will look at on 2020 accounts. Page 21. Page 21. We have accumulated loss for 2019 of about 14.1 billion. For previous year, it was 12.9 billion. This has increased to 14.1 billion accumulated loss. So I would like to ask from the representative of the board that what plan does the board has to redeem this accumulated loss and return our company back to profitability. I'm still on page 21, trade and other receivables. We have trade and other receivables amounted to 258.5 million. We need money in this company. So I don't know what the management or board and management are doing to get this money to the purse of the company, because I won't want this money to be impaired in future. So the management should try all their possible best in making sure that they get this, even if it is 80% of 258.5 million back to the purse of the company. Page 1, where we have the notice of the meeting. Anytime we shareholders open our annual report, the first page we go is the notice of the meeting. But unfortunately this morning, there is something missing on this page, and that is declaration of dividend. It's not there. If you look at this page, we have directors' remunerations and so on, auditors' remuneration. But when it comes to shareholders, nothing for us. This is not good. I want the board to look at this. And I would like to ask that, is there any hope of getting any dividend from our company before the listing from Nigerian Stock Exchange? I would like to know. Page 11 and 12. Attendance at board meeting and board committee meetings. Okay, those ones are okay. All the directors attended almost all the meetings, so I just hope that the director will keep it up. Furthermore, Mr. Chairman, I would like to talk on the forensic audit. So I want to ask that, how far about the forensic audit exercise and the listing issue as at today? The account we are considering today is as at 31 December 2019. So I want to know the situation report as at second quarter of 2020 on those issues. Page 38. Management and support fees. Mr. Chairman, we have 138.5 million as management and support fees. But looking at note 24B, that is on page 50. I'm not happy with what I saw there. Basic fees was 32.7 million in 2018. Basic fees on page 50, note 24B. Basic fees was 32.7 million in 2018. This increased to 115.5 million. Why? This is a year that our company make a loss of 1.21 billion. 1.21 billion loss. Even when we made profit of 2.63 billion last year, we didn't pay up to 115.5 million. It was 32.7 million. Why is it that the year that we made loss of about 1.21 billion, that we paid 115.5 million for basic fees? I would like to know the reason for that. Page 39, notes 8B, C. Notes 8B and C. I think we need to watch some of our expenses, especially the cost of sales, entertainment, other operating expenditure, and general expenses. I want the board to look at this area and do the needful. Still on the same page, that is the note C. Professional fees, 73.2 million. This is still on the high side. I want the board to look at that also. Finally, I thank the board and management for the opportunity given to me to be part of today's meeting. My prayer is that by this time next year, we'll have good story to tell in Tourist Company of Nigeria PLC. Once again, thank you for the opportunity given to me.
Thank you so much, madam. Please, sir.
Good morning, everybody. The name is Prince Dr. Anthony Omojola, the National Coordinator of Independent Shareholder Association of Nigeria. I'm delighted to be here today, and I have the goodwill message from all the members of our association to our company for having this AGM, notwithstanding the situation in the company and in the society. I wish our company more progress. I wish us resolution and solution to our problems, and I wish the company progress as we move ahead. Yes, the first speaker has said much of what I put down, but I would want to repeat some areas for emphasis. On that page 3 where we have the highlight, yeah, the result for the year is fair. However, we didn't have the advantage of tax credit, which we had the previous year for the current year under review. Therefore, it's not enough to ease the company like we have, to ease up our account like we have in the previous year. And this has resulted to negative earning of 54 kobo. For every shareholder, we are owing the company 54 kobo, and we all know the implication of this. Having gone through the chairman's statement, I noticed these two key drawbacks, which the external auditors also emphasize under their key matters. That is the result of the forensic audit, and of course the resolution, which we are hoping for, or the family disputes, which have resulted into numerous litigations. And of course, this, per venture, per the challenges we have, it is what is leading the company to think of delisting from the stock exchange to maybe reduce our cost of running the business. Well, like the previous speaker asked, we want to be updated on the result of the forensic audit and how far we have gone to resolve the family disputes and mitigate our litigations. I noticed on page 7, chairman of audit committee is one of the directors that's signing. We are lucky we have other shareholders, even if in terms of qualification, that have the qualification to sign. I'm talking of Financial Reporting Council's aberration in the past, which has been in the board. That is where they are calling for an accountant to sign that or the committee. That have been challenged and that have been technically withdrawn. Notwithstanding that, the shareholder member in the audit committee should be the one to sign that report, not a director. So I think going forward, the next one, the necessary corrections should be made. The last speaker alluded to the huge amount we are paying for running this company in terms of technical agreement, management agreement, and this and that. Yes, we know this agreement has to be there, but the terms is what we are calling for review. From time to time, these terms has to be reviewed, because it is what you present to NOTAB that they are going to consider along with you and agree. But even if you go to NOTAB fresh now, you won't get to what you have here, because you have some of these things in arrears. So, and because of the level of performance of the company, which have been the negative for some time now, the shareholders are pleading with the management director to revisit those terms, so that the technical partner should also have some, concession for us, because the company is not making profit, and we continue to have this agreement, which is a big percentage of our transactions, which runs into millions. Settling them definitely will be a problem, because this can be linked to the accumulated losses of the past, which is at 14 billion right now. And one wonders, even if we are making profit right now, how soon we'll be able to erase 14 million vis-a-vis the level of our performance. So please, we want you to look into that and come back with a better statement. It's been our worry that accumulated losses is very great, and we believe that as soon as these problems of forensics audit is being resolved and the litigations are being withdrawn, gradually we shall get out of the ding-dong, so to say. So there are other areas to look into, but those are the major things. Because if we are able to solve those litigations and we are able to get results, I mean, the result has come to SEC. We don't know what SEC is waiting for. It's taking too long a time. We want SEC to be mindful of the time and the cost implication in terms of the performance of the company. With this, we could only wish our company good luck as we move ahead. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, are there any more questions from the shareholders? In that case, let me do my best to address the concerns that have been raised. From Mrs. Bakari, the first thing that she mentioned were the results. I am going to, in part in my answers, refer to the financial manager, Mr. Bialand, who is sitting to my left. But let me first of all recognize the concerns that she is raising. We all want the hotel to do well. We all want the business to do well. I assure you that the board of this company is working its hardest and doing its ablest to ensure that the fortunes of this company are turned around, and that the dividends that she mentioned on page 1, which is the first thing that the shareholders look at when they receive their their financial statements, are forthcoming. That having been said, we need to address ourselves to some of the financial realities that are involved inside this company. To begin with, the company has a large amount of shareholder loans. When those loans were granted, when they were incurred, the dollar was 136 naira to the dollar. And now I believe we're looking of northward of 500. These changes in the fluctuation in the dollar have an effect both on the balances and on the interest expense that we incur every year. And the board recognizes that this problem is an issue that can only be addressed by an extensive restructuring of the finances of the company. And I will refer to this restructuring later on when we get to the issue of forensic audit. That having been said, Mrs. Bakari was correct to note that the revenue did in fact go up, and that many other indices were in line with previous years. I'm going to refer to Mr. Bialand to give a few more details with regard to the financial statements.
Good morning. Not to discuss the results in too much detail, yes, we did manage to increase our revenues, although not by a very large extent. The trading environment remains very, very difficult. It's a very competitive market. In terms of costs, the total expenditure at face value did increase from last year's 3.9 billion to 4.1 billion this year. However, the largest increase, the depreciation of property, plant and equipment arose because we revalued land and buildings. So that then attracts a higher depreciation. Fortunately, depreciation is not a cash flow item, but it does reflect expenditure at a higher level. If one excluded that, you would find that the last year's expenses would then have increased. If one removed the additional depreciation, the expenditure line would have moved from 3.9 billion to 3.8 billion. So there's a marginal savings in a fairly high inflation environment. So there has been quite a lot of focus on trying to reduce costs and minimize costs because of the environment that we're in. And I can assure you that the board is very focused on costs at every single board meeting without fail. Mr. Ibru did mention the shareholder loans and the impact that that has without some form of restructure on the balance sheet. because not only do we have loans denominated in dollars, we also have a pretty high interest that's paid. Fortunately, both of those, again, are non-cash items. So it could have been worse if we'd had loans with outside parties. I think that's just to sum up the larger items. Thank you.
Thank you, Bjorn. Just to underline the statement that Bjorn made with regard to some of these issues which are not cash items. The depreciation cost came about because of a revaluation of our land property, which was substantially raised, I believe, in 2017, 2018. And that comes with a concomitant increase in the depreciation cost. In addition, the interest payments which are taken on the shareholder loans are accumulated, they are accrued, but cash is not disbursed. And cash will not be disbursed up until and when the company is in a position to make those payments. So I want to reassure the shareholders that despite the possible negative outlook of some of these non-cash impacts on our income and balance sheet, they are being managed. And reversal is concomitant on long-term restructuring of our financial position. This also affects the second issue that was raised by Mrs. Bakari, which is the accumulated loss. Again, this is the result of non-cash impacts which have been made on our balance sheet over a very long time. It's over a period of years that this has been incurred. And again, we believe that a restructuring of our financial position will reverse that position and reverse the trend. The shareholders would advertise their minds to the alternate possibility that these shareholder loans were actually bank loans. If we had taken these funds from financial institutions, we may not be in a position to be having this conversation that we're having now. So, though there are downsides to what has occurred in the past, there are positive aspects as well. And we believe that given time, these positive aspects will bear fruit for all the shareholders. Some of that addresses also Mrs. Bakari's next question, which was to do with the accumulated, what we are planning to do to redeem the accumulated loss. Briefly, what we are planning to do to redeem the accumulated loss is to, number one, restructure the balance sheet. This is, however, contingent upon the conclusion of the forensic exercise, which I will come to later on because it was raised by shareholders. Secondly, we believe that we will be needing to raise additional capital, possibly by way of debt or by way of equity or both, in order to open the high-rise wing of the hotel. As some of you will be aware, and was discussed by the chairman of the company in previous years, this hotel is supposed to be, has a back of house and a fixed cost structure which supports both wings. That is the low-rise wing of approximately 144 rooms and a high-rise wing of approximately 218 rooms. The high-rise wing, however, has not been refurbished and reopened to the public. And that is contingent upon the settlement of the forensic issues, also upon raising of additional debt and equity capital. When that does happen, however, you will see a marked change in the fortunes of the hotel and a marked reversal of any downward trends that may appear in the historical financials. Going to Mrs. Bakari's next question, trade and other receivables. I believe that's on page 21 and is also part of note 15A. I think I will hand that one over to Mr. Byaland to address.
Trade and other receivables. There is greater detail on note 15A, which you can find on page 45. The breakdown there is trade receivables. That increased from 232 million to 274 million. There's obviously a lot of effort and focus on that today, because even today we're obviously in a higher risk environment in terms of collecting cash. Then we did increase our provision for impairments, and this is basically in line with the new IFRS accounting standard 9, which basically sets out in a formula the amount that you should provide for doubtful debts. That increased, which leaves our net receivables increasing from 128 million to 140 million. Credit card receivables, we've managed to reduce that. Advance payments to suppliers, those are mainly just contract prepayments. And then other receivables that reduced a little bit from the previous year. But obviously there's a lot of focus on trade and receivables because you need that cash in the bank to carry on financing your business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Byaland. With regard to Mrs. Bakari's next question, is there any hope of getting dividends? The answer is yes. Once the company has been able to accomplish the goals that I have outlined before, the company will be in a position to reward its shareholders for their loyalty and for their patience. But as I have expressed earlier, some of these issues go around the issue of resolution of the forensic exercise and related restructuring matters. With regard to the delisting issue, for us, it is primarily a cost issue. The company must look, as has been expressed by shareholders during their questions, at any and all opportunities to reduce costs of the company and to make not just fees and statutory payments, but also the overhead in terms of manpower, in terms of time committed to the responsibilities that we must undertake by remaining listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That is not to say that the company has fully committed, but however, it is a matter that we have to keep in view, a matter we have to continue looking at. And at the same time, we also have obligations to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. While we remain listed, we have to be in compliance with their strictures and regulations, maintain a proper relationship with them. And so, in the event that the company does delist, I would assure the shareholders that it will not impact their relationship with the company in any way. Neither will it be an issue that impacts the declaration of dividends when it does come, and it will come soon. Mrs. Bakari's next question arises from page 38, management and support fees. The first thing that I would like to note with regard to the management and support fees is that our management fees are in line, excuse me, our management fees are in line with international best practice, and the fees that are being paid by hotels of 5-star standard and above anywhere in the world, not just in Nigeria and not just in Africa. I can say this not just from my experience in this company, but my experience with other companies that are holders of international standard hospitality portfolios. I would also point out that our fees actually reduced, whereas we were paying a 3% basic and a 3%, and a 10% incentive fee. The 10% incentive fee has now been reduced to 8%. I would also ask you to look at the amount of those fees, in about 130 million naira against revenue of nearly 3 billion naira. 130 million naira is not an insignificant sum of money, but it has to be considered in the light of the benefits that having an international brand managing the hotel brings. And also it has to be considered with the alternative opportunity cost, if you will. If another hotel manager were to come in, would they charge the same amount or more? I can tell you, if you brought in another 5-star brand, they would be charging the same amount or they would be charging more. So these are costs. Nobody likes costs, but these are costs that have to be accepted to a certain extent by the company. That having been said, we are constantly in dialogue with the managers with regard to the possibility of reducing costs wherever we can find them. Mr. Bialan, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Not really, but it is important to note that there was a drastic reduction in the fee as well. Thank you.
Mrs. Bakari's next question came from page 50, note 24B. Or still on the management and support fees. I think there may be some confusion with regard to the increase in basic fees. If you look underneath section 24B, you will note that there are two companies mentioned under management and support fees. One is Sun International South Africa Limited, and the other is Sun International Management Limited. And I believe I will ask Mr. Bialand to clarify that the change in amounts has to do with the handing over of management functions from Sun International Management Limited to Sun International South Africa Limited, which is basically the same services that were being provided, but the name of the company has changed. Mr. Bialand, would you like to explain further?
That is correct, and it is also highlighted in the note under 24A. All that happened is that the function was transferred from one subsidiary of Sun International to another. That is all that happened. So the one increased, that sees Sun International South Africa, that increased, while SIML, Sun International Management Limited, that reduced. Thank you.
Right, a careful examination of section 24B will show you that in 2018, basic fees were 32 million plus for Sun International South Africa, while they were 159 million, 160 million roughly for Sun International Management Limited. And when you look at the totals for both companies, there was actually a significant reduction in fees between 2018 and 2019. So, moving back to page 39, with regard to Ms. Bakari's next question, it was on costs. She mentioned that the company should strive to manage costs, and as I've said before, we strive every single day to look for areas where we can cut fat but not muscle or bone. We can enable ourselves to continue providing services with the standards that our guests and clients have come to expect. And there was a marginal drop in costs between 2018 and 2019. That's a movement in a positive direction. The same is true of professional fees, which come under Part C, properties and administrative costs. You will note that professional fees were slashed by half between 2018 and 2019. Some of these costs are unavoidable. They are a result of either statutory injunctions or the retaining of consultants in order to address issues that will save us more money in the long run, like the retaining of consultants with regard to tax issues. Nevertheless, I re-emphasize that the company is doing its level best to reduce costs insofar as are possible in this operating environment, while at the same time maintaining the standards that we have become known for. I think that is all that Mrs. Bakari adverted to. And Prince Omojola also repeated for emphasis some of those same issues. I will try not to repeat myself too much. Some are a little bit technical. He did refer to page 3 with regard to the use of tax credits to reduce our outflows. And I'm going to refer that one to Mr. Bjarland to have a discussion on that.
Thank you. The use of tax credits, rather than paying tax as in a transfer of funds out of the bank, we have accumulated over quite a period of time withholding tax credit notes. And we are now starting to apply those to tax payments. Obviously in the past, because we have had accumulated losses which resulted in tax losses, we haven't had a company income tax liability. But with the minimum tax on companies, obviously there's an opportunity to use the withholding tax credit notes.
Thank you. Prince Omojola also made mention of the chairman's statement and asked about the forensic report and the shareholder dispute that was its genesis. What I can say to you is that the report, as I believe the chairman mentioned at the last board meeting, has been presented to SEC. SEC requested for responses to the report from various stakeholders, and my understanding is that those responses have been sent in. I believe that every stakeholder has sent in their responses to SEC's questions. We should, however, recognize that there was obviously a severe interruption in the business of economics in Nigeria, well, not merely economics, but socially, culturally, across a variety, a span of different spheres. And there was an interruption in the ongoing business of Nigeria due to the COVID outbreak and the lockdown that was concomitant upon it. This, I believe, has slowed SEC's reaction, as has a change of leadership at SEC, which took place during these pandemic difficulties which we have been experiencing over the last half year. I would like to appeal to members to have some patience with these matters. The forensic report was a result of a settlement agreement the purpose of which is to align all stakeholders to point us in the same direction to resolve any issues that exist between the shareholders and to recommit them to the progress of this company. And I believe that although there has been some pain involved, that the outcome will cause everyone to smile, both small shareholders and large. With regard to the chairman of the audit committee on page 7, the issue that Prince Omojola raised, it is correct that you do not need an accountant to sign the report of the audit committee. I believe that what you require is the signatory to be registered with the Financial Reporting Council. Madam Secretary, is that correct? The issue of the chairman of the audit committee, the signature, the audit committee's report needs to be signed by somebody who is a member of who is registered with the Financial Reporting Council. Is that correct? Okay. So, although the person does not need to be an accountant, he does need to be registered with the Financial Reporting Council. With regard to the issue that it must be a shareholder to resign, the shareholder to sign, I apologize. That is noted. We will look into it and we will ensure that we are in compliance with the Companies and Allied Matters Act and other issues that, other regulatory strictures that may apply. Ladies and gentlemen, we have spent a great deal of time on these questions, and I crave your indulgence that we should move on to other parts of our agenda. Thank you. There being no further comments, and the audited reports and consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019 having been laid, and members having made their comments, we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is to retire and re-elect the directors. Item number 2 on the agenda is the re-election of retiring directors. In accordance with Section 285 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004, Chief Anthony Idigbe, SAN, Mr. Andrew Johnston, and Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos, due to retire this year and being eligible for re-election, seek to be re-elected as directors of the company. Can someone please move a motion that Chief Anthony Idigbe, SAN, be re-elected as a director?
I so do. The name is Prince Dr. Anthony Omojola.
Thank you, sir. Would the shareholder please rise and second this motion?
Motion seconded. Timothy Adesina. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Take the poll. An electronic device was issued to you at the point of accreditation or when you got here. Note that the device has been activated and is ready for use. A resolution will be announced and voting for the resolution will commence after the announcement. On the voting pad, 1 represents yes or for, 2 represents no or against, and 3 represents abstain. So you press 1, yes, press 2 for no, and 3 for abstain if you're abstaining. A voting session will last 30 seconds, and this will be displayed on the screen. So once we announce that voting has started, you go ahead and vote, and when it ends, we'll also announce same. Voting results will be displayed immediately after each voting session ends. The unit holding indicated on the results slide is in shareholding percentage, first of all, and then we'll subsequently display the unit holding in numbers. Thank you. We shall now take the first resolution. Voting starts now. You may please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution to retire and re-elect the Director, Chief Anthony Idigbe, SAN, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution and represented in shareholding by 1,933,262,000 shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. There being no dissenting vote, I declare. Can someone please move a motion that Mr. Andrew Johnston be re-elected as a director?
I so move. Timothy Adeshi. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would a shareholder please rise and second this motion? Thank you, sir. May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Voting starts now. You may please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution to retire and re-elect the Director, Mr. Andrew Johnston, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution. In shareholding, 1,933,262,000 shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. There being no dissenting votes, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Can someone please move a motion that Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos be re-elected as a director? Thank you, sir. Would a shareholder please rise and second this motion? Thank you, sir. May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution to retire and re-elect the Director Dr. Alexander Tomopoulos. We have 100% votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 1,933,262,000 shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. There being no motion, carried unanimously. Item number 3 on the agenda is to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors. Section 408 of the Act requires that the remuneration of the auditors shall be fixed by the company in general meeting or in such manner as the company in general meeting may determine. I hereby move that the directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration of the auditors. Would a shareholder please rise and second this motion? Thank you, sir. May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll? I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Voting starts now. You may please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 825,123,000 shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. There being no dissenting vote, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 4 on the agenda is the election of the shareholder members of the Audit Committee. Our Audit Committee consists of 3 representatives of the shareholders and 3 directors representing the board. The board of directors have elected their own representatives. They are Alhaji Abacha Bulama, Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos, and Mr. D. Ramakatela Mokobo. You are to elect 3 representatives of the shareholders into the Audit Committee in accordance with Sections 238 and 404 sub 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap 20, Laws of the Federation, 2004. The following 3 nominees of the shareholders were received. 1, Mr. Peter Suarez. Number 2, Mr. Salau Adebanjo. Number 3, Mr. Amusa Oseni. Together with the 3 nominees of the directors, Alhaji Abacha Bulama, Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos, and Mr. D. Ramakatela Mokobo, shall be constituted into the Audit Committee for the financial year ending December 31st, 2020. By the actions of the Board and shareholders in compliance with Section 359 sub 4 and sub 5 of CAMA, I now propose that Alhaji Abacha Bulama, Dr. Alexander Thermopoulos, Mr. D. Ramakatela Mokobo, representing the directors, and Mr. Peter Suarez, Mr. Salau Adebanjo, and Mr. Amusa Oseni, representing the shareholders, be and are hereby constituted into and elected members of the Audit Committee of the company for the financial year ending December 31st, 2020. Will a shareholder please second the resolution to constitute the committee? Thank you, sir. May I now call upon members by a show of hands to indicate first, those in favor? Thank you. Those against? Thank you. I declare the resolution unanimously carried. The next item on the agenda concerns the remuneration of the directors. As this item concerns me, it is my pleasure to invite the financial manager, Mr. Bjorn Barland, to conduct this part of the proceedings.
I hereby move that the remuneration of the non-executive directors in respect of the financial year ended December 31, 2019, in the sums as stated in the financial statements for the directors be approved. Will the shareholder please second the motion by raising up his or her right hand? May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we have the slide, please, for the remuneration of directors? Okay. We need to restart the voting, please. It started counting before the slide came up. Crave your indulgence while they reset for us to take the vote. Can we start? Voting starts now. You may please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution to approve the remuneration of the directors, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 825,123,000 shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. As there were no dissenting votes, I declare the motion carried unanimously. I will now hand over to the chairman to continue the proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Bjorland. Item number 6 on the agenda concerns the shareholders' approval and grant of general mandate to the Board of Directors to engage in transactions with related parties, as subsequently would be required for the proper running and day-to-day operations of the company. I hereby move that the shareholders approve and grant a general mandate to the Board of Directors to engage in transactions with related parties, as subsequently would be required for the proper running and day-to-day operations of the company. Will the shareholder second by raising his or her right hand? Thank you, sir. May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Voting starts now. Please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution that shareholders approve and grant a general mandate to the Board of Directors to engage in transactions with related parties, as subsequently would be required for the proper running of the day-to-day operations of the company, we have 100% votes in favor. In shareholding, represented by 825,123,000 shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. As there was no dissenting vote, I declare the motion carried unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business of this year's annual general meeting. On behalf of the board, I thank you for attending this meeting and showing so much interest in your company's affairs. I would like to now call upon a member to say the closing prayer. Sir, if you would.
In Jesus' name. Father, we thank you for this grace to be present here today. We thank the participating shareholders, directors, managers, and regulators, both those who are here physically and those who are watching virtually. We thank you for the opportunity given to us as every time in Jesus' name. We've deliberated on the way forward for our company. Father, come and grant us our request so that by this time next year, all the directors, shareholders, and other stakeholders will be happy to be here and rejoice with us for a positive account. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray.
I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
I'll take that up. But it's not an issue. It's not an issue. It's not an issue.
Yeah, but go.
Thank you very much. That's my card. Okay, sure. Well done. Brother, let's see. The month on topic. Okay. How you doing? Well done. Fine.
Abroad.